This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Woody Kane alongside Joey Meyer. A special edition of Out Loud this week. We're joined by NASCAR Hall of Famer Bobby Allison, one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers. Welcome to the program. It's good to have you.
Well, thanks. Great to be here.
We were talking before the program, and we were talking about racing and stuff with Talladega and all kinds of stuff, but you've been working on a very special truck lately, right? A Studebaker?
Well, actually, yeah, it's been finished now for about 2 years. A 50 Studebaker pickup. My dad had one when we were kids, and I loved it. And as I began to have some success in my racing career, I started to pick up some antique cars, old cars along the way that meant something to me for one reason or another. And one of those things, I ended up buying a brand new 1950 Studebaker pickup. And I was just so pleased with it. The man had gotten taken care of it for years and years, and I was able to get that thing and take it home. But then after I did that, then the idea to make a custom deal came up. And instead of taking my good stock one apart, I had a friend that was aware of a pretty tattered, beat-up one in a junkyard by him somewhere near Richmond. And we ended up getting that thing, and that's what we used as our basis for our project. But put the Studebaker pickup body on a 87 Buick LeSabre Grand National, and of course that was the LeSabre Grand National was the ones that had the turbocharger and everything.
Yeah,
and so it was really a neat bottom piece, and had this Studebaker pickup body on it that I really enjoyed, and then of course the body shop really jumped in and did a great job on the finished part of that.
How many tickets have you gotten racing around town so far?
Actually, I probably should have got 2 or 3, but I managed to dodge all of those.
Bobby, one of the things I'm really honored to have you here today. I mentioned to you before the show that our family, even though your claim to fame was Hueytown, Alabama, and the Alabama Gang, Miami, Florida is where you grew up in, and you spent several nights at Hialeah Speedway with my dad and my Uncle Marty and racing. But now you're Hueytown, and there's so many different questions I want to ask you. But as a spotter, earlier this season we had a gentleman on the show, and we started talking about the evolution of spotting. And not many people realize it, but you were one of the first people to work with Motorola back in the early 70s and had a spotter at Riverside. What was your thought? Obviously, your crew chief was talking to you back then, but you wanted somebody else on the radio with you right when you were driving. That seems kind of...
Yeah, well, see, radios were just coming into the picture anyway.
Yeah. And
the radios were well, actually, they hadn't even come into the picture yet.
Right.
I built a little rig to go in my car out of a CB.
Right. breaker.
Yeah, built a little aluminum box, put the radio in and all, where I could reach over there and turn the knobs if I needed to, and took that thing to Riverside, California, which I really, really loved Riverside.
Yep.
And got out there, and this young fella came up to me and he said, "Bobby," says, "I work for Motorola, and I can make you a better deal than that. I can make you a ultra high frequency handheld thing that you can actually hear, because I couldn't hear anything."
Yeah, it's kind of loud.
And the big whip antenna was kind of in the way.
Yeah. And so this guy's name was Chuck Santori, and he said, "Now, I'll do it for you, but I don't have a budget. You'll have to pay a little bit for some of the equipment. Will you do that?" And I said, "Sure, I'll do that." at the time I was doing kind of okay with my racing. I had a little money in my pocket. And I was doing the short track racing too, which I put more of that in my pocket than I probably was supposed to, but it came in handy a lot. So I had some of that. And so I gave Chuck some money, and that was in January. So when the June race at Riverside was coming up, he called me up and he says, "I've got this thing done, and I think you're gonna like it. So I'll meet you at Riverside, and we'll put it in the car." And so met him there, and he put the thing in the car, and had this deal where the the receiver was somewhere remote, but it was closed.
Mm-hmm.
I think we mounted it probably on the wedge bar, and it had a hose, not electric wire, but a hose, little tiny one that came over to a junction that I put right here, and it had hoses that came out and went up to my ears, and little squeeze up ear bobs, that was fixed with that.
Yeah. Way before Apple came out with the iBuds.
Yeah, and stuck that in there, and I've had a long, really fun but competitive situation with Richard Petty for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And so Richard Petty comes walking over and he says, "You big sissy, now you have to have somebody tell you when to turn." Hey, well, I happen to really like this. I had gotten the idea because I flew my own airplane, and I'm sitting here 50, 75 miles an hour from the guy I'm talking to, and I'm talking just like we're talking right now. I'm hearing what he's saying, he's hearing what I'm saying, and I said, there's got to be a way to use that in this. And of course, the CD thing was not the
CB radio didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
But if I remember correctly, and I read the article, you actually end up winning that race.
Well, worse than that. Yeah. I'm better than that.
Yeah,
worse and better. This guy Chuck Santori was my spotter. Yeah. He went up to the top of the main grandstand in the south end of the racetrack there at Riverside, and I was way up front. I was probably in the top 2 or 3. In fact, I think I was leading the race. It was only about second or third lap when the first incident happened. I'm coming by the pit area, and right after that there was a left turn and then a right turn. It was really blind. You could not see up the track any. And Chuck comes on the radio and says, "Bobby, go straight out in the dirt. Go straight out in the dirt." So I did.
You did. You believed him.
And everybody behind me crashed.
Oh, man. How about that?
Including Richard Petty. Yeah. I didn't have to race anybody to win the race.
Right.
They all wrecked out.
Everybody was wrecked. Like 8 or 10 cars got wrecked in that deal, And, of course, back in those days, there were lots of back markers, but there were several good cars. But as I remember the thing now, it seems to me that every good running car was involved in that crash.
I bet it wasn't long that Richard Petty had another one of them radios.
I came out of victory lane. He come walking over to me. He said, "Hey, where can I get me some of them radio things?"
When something works, everybody wants a piece of it, right?
I'm telling you what, he stepped right in, and of course, he was already becoming the king.
Sure.
And they used that well, and Motorola made a deal with him. And
so your thought process was simply because of the piloting thing.
Yeah.
You wanted to have a guy talk to you in the race car. Just like flying.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool.
You're driving that airplane along, and the guy says clear to land, and you believe him and you land,
and you do it. Yeah,
and
that's cool.
And just apply it to racing.
That is neat.
Yeah, we got to take a quick time out here on MRN Out Loud. Bobby Allison is joining us, the 1983 Winston Cup champion and NASCAR Hall of Famer. More is just ahead.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away one set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
On July 6th, gather your family and friends for summer's biggest celebration, the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona. Experience a weekend of excitement with racing under the lights and celebrate Independence Day with patriotic tributes and the region's largest fireworks display over the infield at Daytona. The Coke Zero Sugar 400 will be a celebration to remember. Adult tickets start at $49, kids $20. Lock in your seats at 1-800-PIT-SHOP or DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
Bobby Allison, who won here in 1971, is pushing that Coke machine under the Champion Bridge, headed toward the checkered flag. He's in turn 9 and Ken Squire.
As he moves into turn number 9, Chuck Looney on the radio over in Allison's pit, just ecstatic. They worked awfully hard for this one. Here he comes. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the Alabama gang is coming across with a checkered flag very easily. Bobby Allison has won the Two-Board 400 today at Riverside International Raceway in California.
There you go. Bobby Allison wins at Riverside in 1973. We were talking about that. Before we get back into the stories, be sure to tune in all week as MRN heads to Chicagoland Speedway as part of Procore Week here on the Motor Racing Network. For builders, wasted time is wasted money. With Procore, all people, software, and data are connected to one platform, so everyone on your project has access to everything they need. MRN Out Loud is brought to you by Procore Construction Management Software. Reduce rework and finish jobs faster with Procore. Bobby Allison is here with us telling us a story about first time you used a radio in the car and a spotter and all that. So did NASCAR start sniffing around with that and say, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing here? Was there a lot of nosing around to see what was going on with it?
Actually, I was really good friends with some of the NASCAR people and not as good of friends with some of the other NASCAR
Kind of like today.
Yeah. And the ones that really... I was really involved with at the time were really pumped up about it. They thought it was a good idea. Had very little resistance from early on, except they wanted to make sure they would be available to anybody that wanted them. Mm-hmm. At the time, there was nothing like that required. Nobody had radios of any kind. The signage was signboards with chalk.
Mm-hmm. Pit now.
Yeah, you pit now, yeah. And so that went really good. And, of course, Richard had his radios by the next race. And, so he was happy about that. And we just went on our way.
For a long time in the NASCAR circuit, you obviously back in the 70s were racing road courses back then. We come back from Sonoma this weekend. And there's certain guys that love road course racing, and there's certain guys despise it. Obviously, you were successful. Why? You came from Hialeah Speedway. We were talking. It was like racing on this table. It was so flat. But road course racing, you did pretty well at.
Well, and I really enjoyed it. But part of my early instruction in this, my early entry into racing, I had a little. 37 Ford coupe, I guess was. I had a 36 Chevy, 37 Chevy, 37 Chevy. I guess I had as an amateur car, and then I moved into the next step up. I forget what they call the name of them, but as I got into that. I began to look and see, what can I do to make the car better, and what can I do to help my situation? there were all kinds of little things that went on. I was working away in my dad's little shop in Miami, and all of a sudden, some guy comes through the front door of the shop. There's a little concrete block building with a wooden door. Mm-hmm. Bam! Bangs the door against the wall and says, "Shut up." And I kind of caught an idea of who it might be, but I didn't really know the man. I knew his sons, but I didn't know him. And he walked closer to me and he said, "I said, shut up." And I still hadn't said a word. Said, "Yes, sir." He says, "I'm here to help you, and you got to listen." He says, "Let me tell you something, kid." And everything started out with, "Let me tell you something, kid." "Let me tell you something, kid. Every racetrack has 2 straightaways and 4 corners, so you got to handle twice as good as you run, and I'll show you how." Well, he had my attention 100%. His name was Roy Armstrong. He had raced on the dirt in the 30s, and then had married and had 2 sons. And I never knew what happened to his wife, whether she left or whether she had passed away or what. But he lived with his 2 boys there in Miami, really close to where my folks' house was, where I lived. And says, "I'm here to help you." So I was really lit up with that. So we were working on a project, and he said, "When I get off of work, I get here about just after 3 o'clock. I get off at 3, and I'll just be here, and we'll do this next project." So I said, "Okay." So I got all ready. Well, he didn't show up, and so I waited, and didn't show up. About an hour, I called his house. And, "What do you want?" I said, "Roy, you were going to be here to work on this project." "Oh, I'm really mad. I just had a really bad wreck, and I'm just really mad." I said, "Are you hurt?" He said, "No, I'm not hurt, but it tore my little truck all up." I said, "Roy, what happened?" He said, "I was going down 32nd Avenue, and some guy came through 14th Street and just tore my little truck all to pieces." I said, "Roy, 32nd Avenue is a stop street. 14th Street is a through street." He says, "I run that stop street every day at 3 o'clock. That guy had no business being there."
So it was the other guy's fault.
Yeah. So it's just, you just put a delightful piece of humor on top of the thing. I went and got him and came over, and we made this change to the chassis that we were doing. Mm-hmm. And he told me things about that. It's so important to drive into the corner properly, and you can't overdrive it there, and you have to have it pointed right to come off the corner, and all these things. And really got going good right off the bat. I couldn't win the feature, but I could win the heat race, and I could finish way up in the feature, even with modifieds running. And by then, I guess I was building my first 34 Chevy. Had a little 283, 60 over 283 with 3 carburetors on it. Mm-hmm. And so that thing was working really good. And the idea of going to a road course came up. I forget where I think they did a road course layout near where Homestead Racetrack is right now. Mm-hmm. There's an old Army base there, and they had a portion there, and somehow made a racetrack. And so you have to feel the car and drive it hard enough that you're right at slip, but you cannot slip the tires, because if you slip the tires, it heats them up, and then they quit holding as good. So we really got into that, and saw that I liked this race.
That style,
this style road course racing was really okay.
Five times on the pole, 6 times in victory lane. Numerous second place finishes at Riverside. So
that's just Cup.
That's just Cup, right? You're right. And that's just one Riverside, just one road course. It's amazing that a driving instructor again, first time with a spotter radio and a driving instructor back before driving instructors knew what they were. So,
but at that time,
amazing.
nobody was really talking about road courses in NASCAR, right? This was before all that.
No, most of the guys didn't like them, didn't want to be there, were mad about the thing. I loved it.
Kind of like now.
Yeah.
Kind of like now.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. Yeah.
Joey always says if somebody's mad, that means it must have been a good race.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If somebody complained, I liked it immediately.
Yeah, that 79 500 race was a heck of a one. There was some people mad there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was telling...
you see that guy beat on my fist with his nose?
Exactly. I can't believe that. That's hard to believe.
Yeah.
I was telling Joey before the show that Donnie was actually the Grand Marshal at a barbecue contest in Salisbury that I used to do for a couple of years, and he was all about it, man. He loves him some barbecue now, right?
Yep. I'm telling you.
When we get to what we're looking at today, back in your day, the cars were well up off the ground, and now they're splitters and stuck quite to the ground. What do you think about that compared to what you guys had to do?
I think that's helped to ruin racing to the point that the grandstands are so empty everywhere. It breaks my heart to see empty grandstands at places where we had standing room only, repeatedly, race after race. And there's just some things that people want to see, Fords and Chevys and Dodges and Toyotas and whatever, but real cars running, or at least an assembly of a real car.
Like you could go by the next day if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And
it's really, really sad about that. You know, I went to one of the NASCAR organizational meetings they were going to have here. It was probably 6 or 8, maybe 10 years ago now already, and was at the Embassy Suites at Charlotte. And so that's pretty close to Hueytown, so I drove over there, and I walked in, and Robin Pemberton, who was one of my employees when I had a team, Robin Pemberton stopped me and said that you weren't invited and you're not allowed in. Turn around and leave now. And my mouth fell open. Here they're talking about trying to make this thing better. So why don't they want to hear somebody else's idea on a couple things? Maybe they still don't want to do it, but at least you give them something to think about.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I tucked my tail and went home.
Oh.
So
missed opportunity.
Yeah, and I feel like that has really showed. This we won the championship in '83. And the morning after the victory dinner, Gary Nelson told me he wanted to meet me for breakfast, which normally I don't eat breakfast, but have a cup of coffee or whatever. And I met him, and he says, I want to tell you that I have resigned as your crew chief, and I've appointed Robin Pemberton, and I've done this and this and this, and I'm going to embark on my dream of a car of tomorrow, which was 1983, December 1983.
Right.
Wow.
Yes, and it took them a lot of years to get it.
Tomorrow was a little further off than we thought.
Yeah.
I think they're still working on that.
They might be.
They're still working on that car tomorrow.
Yeah. Gen 86 now.
Yeah, whatever gen we're at now. I think we're coming up on Gen 7. Listen, we got to take another quick break here on MRN Out Loud. We're reminiscing with Bobby Allison, the NASCAR Hall of Famer, one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers. More after this.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
I'm Matt DiBenedetto, driver of the number 95 Procore Toyota Camry. On race day, you can save a ton of fuel by drafting in the pack, but you'll never win if you don't stay up on the wheel. It's like in the construction business. You can either keep up with the competition or leave them in the dust with the Procore Construction Management Platform. Whether you're a GC, specialty contractor, or owner, Procore's software is built to help your team stay on budget, on schedule, and in control. To learn more, visit Procore.com.
Hey guys, it's Dylan Welch. He's Tyler Burnett. We're the co-hosts of the Rip the Fence podcast. If you like traditional non-wing dirt track racing, we've got the podcast for you.
Shane Meal trying to drive away.
I can't do everything, but I could do anything and everything I wanted before I got injured. So
just like many of the great podcasts going, we invite racers in to talk, and they tell us their life story.
And it's how I feel that matters.
It's the Rip the Fence podcast, available on MRN.com and your favorite podcast app.
Bobby Allison brings it out of the fourth corner and will get the white flag from Harold Kinder as he flashes across the line. He's won the Gillette AFRA Lap Leader Award by leading the most laps here at Darlington this afternoon. Let's follow him around on his victory lap over in turn 2.
Fans on their feet cheering Bobby Allison on. He won the race in 1975 in an AMC Matador. Today he's going to put a Buick in victory lane. Bobby Allison turns for home.
A pad in the Winston Cup point lead and the fourth victory of 1983 for Bobby Allison of Hueytown, Alabama, as he brings the Die-Guard Racing Miller High Life Buick to the checkered flag of Chief Starter Harold Kinder and wins the 34th Annual Southern 500.
Bobby Allison wins at Darlington in 1983. You heard Barney Hall there on part of that call. And Bobby, what do you think now about Darlington doing the whole throwback thing where every year people are reviving the old paint schemes and that type of stuff? That's really cool looking.
I have really enjoyed that. I really do, you know.
Does it bring back some memories for you?
Yeah, it does. It really does. You know, and I think Terry Carford's done a great job of putting that kind of an idea together and getting the support and getting the interest and the enthusiasm that at least people are turned on about part of the deal there.
It's really cool, yeah.
One of the opportunities working over at Team Penske's, we've been able to run those throwbacks, and they're such a good-looking car. Because you were at the very early stages of NASCAR, a lot of the drivers today emulate their heroes that they grew up with. Who did you emulate? Was there somebody that Bobby Allison looked up to as a driver? We heard you had a driving instructor, which is cool, but it was so early on. Was there anybody that you said, that's the guy that I'm going to race like?
There are two guys that were early on, really like that. One of them, a lot of people know the name because he's only 91 right now, and he's still racing. That's Red Farmer.
There you go. Yep.
Red Farmer. But before him, there's a guy named Bobby Johns that raced in Miami, Florida. Yep. He raced homemade stuff. He and his father's a little bitty, little short Greek that knew a lot of really bad words and stuff like that.
In racing, you have to know a lot of bad words, don't you?
Well, I was surprised at how I got taught all these bad words. But actually, I got taught more by Kiefer when I went to the boat deal. Oh, boy, he's a little German guy, and he knew lots and lots of American bad words. But anyway, Bobby Johns really did well with the car, whether it was short track, long track. I didn't see much dirt racing. There were a couple of dirt tracks in South Florida. West Palm was dirt before I ever went there, but then they paved it. And but there were a few little paved tracks. In fact, there was a paved track at Key West, Florida, called Stock Island Speedway.
Wow!
And when I found that, I would get up Sunday morning and go to Mass, load my junk up, and go down the Overseas Highway, which had the two one-way bridges. One of them was a 7-mile bridge. If you got there and the light was turning red, you had a 30-minute wait. And well, not 30, I guess, but
it probably felt like that, didn't it?
30, yes.
20 anyway, yeah. Yep. But down to Key West, and I wasn't winning yet, but I could run good in the heat race, and I could do decent in the feature, and ran that Key West, and I was at an event in Houston, Texas. I think it was a NASCAR promotion of some kind, just a car show, and fans and so forth, and signing away on autographs and smiling and getting pictures taken. And some guy steps up to me and says, "I saw you race at Stock Island Speedway."
Did it surprise you?
I about fell out of my seat. I had to stop everything and just talk to him for a few minutes about Stock Island Speedway. And Judy and I were on a cruise, I guess 5 or 6 years ago. And one of the stops was in Key West. And I actually checked into Stock Island Speedway and found out that it was really there. There was a piece of it that still existed, but it was kind of hard to get to, and couldn't get right to it, but at least could talk about it, and found a few people that knew about it, and that was kind of fun talking about that place.
Did you get a chance to talk to those guys that you wanted to emulate, or did you just observe them from afar? Or were they open with giving you advice, or not so much?
Oh, I worked for Bobby Johns, and
he had a gas station. It was a big gas station in Miami.
Actually, it was a closed gas station.
It used to be.
It was a race car shop.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I worked for him, but I didn't get paid, and so I had saved some money from when I worked for Keycafer, and I finally used up all my money, and I had to quit and go get a job.
Reality gets in the way.
And so I did that, and so my job was at Aerodex Aircraft Engine Overhaul Factory in Miami, and it was past where my dad's little place was, and then further out toward the airport. And so I had decided, I used up all my money, and so now I need to go ahead and get 2 or 3 jobs and get me some money back. So
the bills kept on coming, didn't they?
I went to work for a place called Aerodex out there. Red Farmer drove for a guy that had a place called Air Carrier Engine Service, ACES, Air Carrier Engine Service. And so I knew about him, and I had seen Red Farmer from across the room and so forth. And I admired Red because Red was a real showman right from the beginning. He put on a show, and the people loved it. And anyway, so I'm on my 2 jobs. I leave Aerodex, and Aerodex was a sweatshop, and so I would go home and change shirts and then go to my next job, which was a gas station right down the street from where my dad's shop was. And so I was doing that one day, coming up that road, and I had a 56 Chevy I'd bought brand new. I hadn't done anything to it, but it came from the factory quick enough to not get beat in the whole 3 years I had that thing. Midnight drags. I didn't race anybody with an unfair deal, but anybody that pulled up with a production street car, I beat them. And so I was proud of that. But anyway, I'm going down the road, and here comes this station wagon toward me, and the guy's got his hand out the window stopping me. And it's Red Farmer. So I said, "Hello, Red, what do you want?" He says, "We want to talk to you. We're building a new Chevy. We're building a Chevy. Nobody has Chevys yet." And so Homer Warren was the old chief mechanic, and I knew him because my dad had done some work for the Ford dealership that Homer worked at full time, all Miami Motors. And so Homer wants to talk to you about helping him on the engine. And I thought to myself, I don't know anything about the engine, but I'm not going to tell them. So I told him I'd get off at Streamland at 8:30, and he said, "We'll be there. Just come on right around the corner to Aces." So I go over there. We go in a little back room, and Homer's in there, and Red says, we want to hire you to help Homer with this Chevy. We know you obviously know something about the Chevys, because your car runs way better than most people. And plus you've been up there with Kiefer with the dual 4 barrels and all that, and Homer wants to run dual 4 barrels. So I had never even had a screw out of a 4-barrel carburetor.
You could drive the heck out of one, you just couldn't work on one.
Yeah. So he said, and plus the 2 other youngsters out there in the shop, we can't let them know that you're getting paid because they're just volunteers. Mm-hmm. And it was Roger and Bill Porterman, who I became really good friends with. And
did they ever find out you were getting paid?
They probably did.
Did they ever find out you didn't know a thing about engines?
Nobody ever found out about that.
You did good.
I took those carburetors home. Homer said, I want to run these carburetors, and I'm doing the engine, and here's the manifold, and here's a box with a carburetor in it, and here's a box with a carburetor. And I want you to get them ready, and I'll be ready to crank the thing up in a couple of days.
Tall order.
So I went to parts store and bought a carburetor overhaul manual for this Carter carburetor. Took that thing apart, and it had some little cardboard templates to set the floats and set the needle valves and stuff like that. And I just studied that thing, and I took the first carburetor apart, and it wasn't anywhere close to what this book said it was supposed to be. And I said, no wonder that everybody has these things popping and banging and carrying on around the racetrack. Nobody can use them to race with. So I fixed that one just exactly like the book said to do it. So I take the second one apart, and it's way different too, but it's different from the first one. And I said, boy, really, it's no wonder that everybody buys one of these things, has trouble with it. So I set that up and went to the hobby shop and bought some little linkage, ball socket linkage. Yep. Made a really nice set of throttle linkage. Made a really nice little fuel log. Took that thing over there to Homer about 2 days later. He had that motor ready, set that thing on there, cranked it up. Hudden. Sounded like $1 million. Red Farmer won the first 19 feature races that he ran with it.
You were a genius.
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow.
Well, about the second week into it, I got a chance to. A guy came to me and said, "If you'll fix my carburetor so it doesn't bang and pop like that, you can drive my flathead car."
There you go.
And I went and told Red, I said, Red, I got a chance to go drive something. He said, well, appreciate what you did. We'll see you later. So I got my first ride based on
because
that.
You studied and learned how to work on a carburetor that nobody else could figure out.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. One more break here on MRN Out Loud. We're visiting with Bobby Allison.
You can grab a hot dog anywhere.
Hey, what'll it be?
But you can't always grab one from the trackside concessions where the guy's been slinging since you were a kid. 300 calories turning into 300 decibels, cheering Martin Truex Jr. until he clinches the win. Take a bite, and if you taste something greater, you're family now. The summer's heating up. Follow what could be the Toyota racing family's best season ever at toyotaracing.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark for the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules.
Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Get your tickets for the Ultimate NASCAR Summer Festival June 27th through June 30th. Racing, music, and a carnival for the whole family. All at Chicagoland Speedway. And this year, we're kicking off the first annual Barbecue Smokedown with tastings, demos, and barbecue competitions. Get tickets to the Camping World NASCAR weekend at ChicagolandSpeedway.com.
Bonnet makes the move around into the fourth place position. Still, Bobby Allison, your leader. There's Davey Allison to the bottom of the racetrack. Davey Allison tries it on the inside.
One last try for Davey Allison, but he has to tuck back in line just behind his dad, who was a twice winner of the Daytona 500. Bobby Allison wins it for the third time in his career. Right behind him was Davey Allison. Holding on to a tight third-place battle was Phil Parsons with Terry Labonte and Neil Bonnet. What a finish as the Alabama gang, Bobby and Davey Allison, take positions 1 and 2. It was quite a finish.
We talked road course racing, and you loved it.
Yeah.
But you're really good at Daytona. That's the other end of the spectrum.
Listen, anything that said race track fit right into my deal perfectly, and as long as it was paved.
Right.
Now, I did some dirt. I finally won a dirt race. Beat Richard Petty one night at Savannah. I thought I had one in Indianapolis and the Daytona 500 all at one time. I was so proud of myself, but dirt, I just could not get that same feel. I had a feel on pavement that was just incredible, and just get in that car and adjust for whatever it needed on a given day, and even adjust my driving for different conditions from day to day.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people never realize that goes on too, and just really. I forgot where I was going.
Yeah, we're racing with Davey Allison and adjusting the feel of versus a road course versus a super speedway. It's a completely different animal, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and big tracks, little tracks. You know, there's a difference in just about every racetrack. But what you do is you go and you tune to whatever that difference is, and the comment I was started to make and lost my train of thought there a minute ago was I raced at Martinsville, Virginia 54 times, I think it was. And the first time I ever went there, I led the 495th lap, and I was 2 laps in front of the field, and the engine blew up. And I coasted over into the grass in turn 1. They never even threw the caution flag. They let the next guy go 7 laps to make the 500 laps, and I led Martinsville. I sat on the pole Martinsville, and I led Martinsville and sat on the pole again and led again and sat on the pole again and led again. Never won a cup race at Martinsville, Virginia, and it breaks my heart still today.
Really? Of all the things, yeah.
And the track is so much like Hialeah Speedway was.
Yep, flat.
Flat. And long straightaways and relatively tight corners. And anyway, got to run a lot of things like that. And then we were there at Daytona, and to have Davey be second behind me was so incredibly meaningful to me. It made me feel so good that he had come on and it was doing so well, and that he was able to go run second behind me there. And that.
Was there ever a thought of letting him pass you?
I was going to ask him the same thing. You didn't think about letting him win it, did you?
Never.
What are you talking about? You can't give somebody something and expect them to say, well, okay, I did this.
Sure.
Yeah. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Nope.
You got a promo there for us, don't
well,
you?
You know, we could sit here and talk campfire stuff all day long. Really, really want to thank you for coming in and just chat. Man, we got so much, and we've only scraped the surface of what the history is. But we're giving away free tires. Hercules is giving away a free set of tires every month, and you can register by going to HerculesTire.com/MRN. We give away Bloomin' Onions on the show when Kevin Harvick does good. We're giving away Hercules tires for doing good. Bobby Allison, really, really appreciate you coming in. The history, you were a part of my life before I was even born. You've mentioned all the area. Like, I know where 32nd Street and 14th is. Like,
how many times did you run that stop sign?
But it's just interesting, the history of what Miami, Florida, and Hialeah Speedway and the guys that you were around, that my dad was around and you were around, and Marty Hanshaw and Bobby Johns and Red Farmer, those guys, the history of South Florida racing. And I know we get a lot of credit and give it to Daytona, but a lot of what we see today started in South Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it really did. Bobby, thanks for your time. What's coming up for you in the near future? What's on your calendar? What you got coming up?
Well, I'm going to Carteret Speedway Saturday night. Donnie and I will both be there and sign some autographs and take some pictures and do that kind of thing. And then I'll go to Daytona for the 4th of July. And
you doing thing in an official capacity, or are you just going as to hang out and be a fan?
Actually, semi-official. I've got several commitments for personal appearances already in Daytona, already lined up, which I do them. They've been good for me, and I earn a little bit. I carry my stuff along, sell my junk.
We all have our stuff, don't we?
Yeah. Hats and die-cast cars and books and all kinds of things like that.
Cool. Make sure you visit Bobby at Daytona coming up, the 4th of July race there. On the Motor Racing Network, however, we are headed to Chicagoland Speedway, where there is a full slate of racing coming up for you. Let's check out that schedule right now. As usual, don't forget NASCAR Live every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. However, at Chicagoland Speedway, Friday night, 8:30 Eastern Time, the Camping World 225, the truck race, the Gander Outdoor Truck Series. Saturday, the Camping World 300 in the Xfinity Series. That comes your way at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Then on Sunday, the Camping World 400, the Cup Series. That comes your way at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Kim Kuhn and I will have the pre-race show for you on Sunday. I'm Woody Kane. That's Joey Meyer. This is NASCAR Hall of Famer Bobby Allison. We'll see you next week right here on MRN Out Loud.